I'm Brian Ward. I'm the Senior Vice President of Worldwide Studios for Activision. Yeah. And one of my jobs when I first joined there was to strengthen the studio organization. We had 6 studios at the time, and we were looking at acquiring more studios who had genre expertise, platform expertise, or some other talent that we didn't already have internally owned at Activision. So in the first year, I think that I was there, we acquired another 4 studios or so, one of which was Beanox in Quebec. And how that came about was that they had a competing offer, or they had an offer from another publisher to acquire them. They phoned us up. They were doing all of our PC ports at that time. And we didn't want to lose our PC port capability. They were doing a great job for us at a very reasonable cost. So we said, yes, we'd be interested in making an offer also. So I went up there with an engineer and we did the due diligence and whatever. And in about 3 weeks, we put a deal together, which was great. And when I was up there with the engineer, both of us, after a couple of days of talking to them and examining all their processes and everything, looked at each other and said, well, these guys are very capable for the size of organization that they have. For 29 people, they've got very advanced thinking about business process, development process, especially for a PC port house, and great training programs for new hires, great relationships with local colleges and universities, and great government relations, and spend a fair bit of time for such a small studio focusing on business development activities. So that to us, among a couple of other things, sort of indicated that they were capable of much more than what they were doing and why we were acquiring them. And in due course, I ended up taking over all the studios about 1.5 years later, and I phoned Dominique and said, hey, you should really be doing more than PC ports. How about some DS games? How about some console? So they're now working on their second full multi-platform next-gen console game for Spider-Man Chronicles. Yes, I think so. I think because, first of all, they've got a great track record for an internal studio. They've on their very first project, B-movie, which is a difficult thing to do. Movie development, for a lot of reasons, or game development for a movie IP is very difficult. But they delivered it on time, day and date with the movie. They delivered it on budget, and they hit the quality bar that we asked them to. So they really, for a first-time console developer, really did everything possible, and they've got a great track record since then. So I think for sure that they will migrate into online development. For all of our portfolio is really moving more and more into online, and I won't be surprised at all if we have a great online IP for them in the future. All versions, I think. They have been doing some Wii SKUs other than the Spider-Man Chronicles and B-Movie, where they did all the console versions. But I wouldn't characterize them as a Wii-specific shop. I think they've got capabilities across the whole gamut. So in the online space, I think it'll be Xbox Live, PSN, and so on. I think it'll be the full gamut. We've sort of held them at about 180 people, which is about 3 teams or 2.5 teams, really. And that seems to be their comfort level for the time being, and for the opportunities that we've got for them over the next 2 years. I think they'll be working on another Spider-Man game. This time it'll be the movie game as their next project, I think. And I think that this is the right size for them for maybe the next couple of years. Also, our slate has been adjusted, and we've actually taken some things off our slate. So I don't foresee a need. And keeping in mind that they've grown basically 6-fold in 4 years, I think they need time to sort of digest this growth and plan for the next phase. So I think growth is in their future, but not maybe in the next 2 years. It's a difficult spot for us to get into for a couple of reasons. One, it's the largest development community or major center of development community in our industry where we don't have a significant presence. So we would love to be there. We're in Vancouver, we're in a bunch of other places. But it's difficult for a couple of reasons. One is all the talent is locked up by another publisher. They're either working for IDOS or Ubisoft or EA or what have you. So there aren't a large number of independent studio developers there still available. A2M is an independent, and we work with them, but there aren't a large number of others. And so for us, because we're unlike Ubisoft in building a studio in a new location, we like to work with an existing studio on a contract basis for a couple of years and see how everything works out, and then possibly acquire them, sort of date before we get married. Whereas Ubisoft, is great at going in and starting something from the ground up. You know, first in China, first in Montreal, first in Morocco, you know, and first in a lot of places, and they build from the ground up. We don't do that. We're not very good at that. We like to work with an independent, and there just aren't the number of independents available in Montreal for us to choose from. Unlike Vancouver, where there's also a significant development community of, you know, 4,000 people, but there are still 2 or 3, 4 maybe AA and AAA independent developers to work with, which kind of more fits our model. So if we could, the only way we can really get into Montreal is for you know, a team of people or a group of key people from an existing organization to break off and want to go start something else. It wouldn't surprise any you know, any of your audience, but you know, 5 years ago we were strictly really a console company with no online offering to speak of, and the success of Xbox Live and PSN and so forth has meant that we've added, and the opportunities that presents for extending product life, keeping product out of the used resale bin, and for you know, maximizing margins on a certain product have you know, persuaded us to do more development after the fact and downloadable content and so on, and that'll continue. But we're also looking, so that'll continue across all franchises where it makes sense, and we're also looking at an online-only strategy for certain of our franchises. That isn't announced yet, but when it's ready, it'll be, I think, well received, especially in Asia, where the predominance of the market is online, and where we don't have a significant presence or a presence as large as we do in North America and Europe. And if that pans out on those properties that we'll start with, then I think we'll see that migrate over to other franchises in our portfolio as well.